hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
This World Blood Donor Day, join us in celebrating 20 years of giving. Thanks to blood donors, I'm here today. Your donations gave me a second chance.
Sikubali tu kila kitu namwambia na mama hata hiyo aunti yako. Ufikiri ni gospel truth. What I've gone through unachapitia.
Ulishirikiana na mkachukulia sheria mkononi na mkamshambulia bwana Ondie kinyuka kwota, mkampiga na mkamuumiza.
Mahali wewe ulikuswa ama ulikongwa?
This message is brought to you by the Kenya Blood Transfusion and Transplant Service.
Sikubali tu kila kitu namwambia na mama hata hiyo aunti yako. Ufikiri ni gospel truth. What I've gone through unachapitia.
Ulishirikiana na mkachukulia sheria mkononi na mkamshambulia bwana Ondie kinyuka kwota, mkampiga na mkamuumiza.
Mahali wewe ulikuswa ama ulikongwa?
Kama ni mimi si mnganiua.
Nakuuliza ulikongwa? Pikipiki ni yako?
Hapana, ni yako.
Hapana. Gari ni yako?
Hapana.
Sindoka basi.
Toka.
Toka. Sky, he did not see me when I was passing. Then he cuts the steering like this.
Sinyamaze.
Sinyamaze mpaka niongee mheshimiwa.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu. Labda ni TB ni ugonjwa wa kweli. Ukipimwa matibabu yapo utapona. Daktari kushauri tumia dawa kwa nidhamu. Elimu tupashane tupige vita TB. Mwa TB, TB waishi poa. Mwa TB, TB waishi poa.
Good afternoon. You are in time for the Lunchtime News. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Irene Muchuma Odem. On sign language interpretation, we have Brian Muraro. Let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. We begin from the county of Nairobi, and a section of Kenyans have converged at the city mortuary in the county of Nairobi, demanding for justice following the death of one of the protesters from yesterday's anti-finance demos across the country. My colleague Abdihaziz Hashim is on that beat. Hashim, good afternoon.
You've just rightly said it, Irene. We're currently here at a city mortuary following up on that demise of that young boy by the name Rex Kanyia Masai, who died of a gunshot wound yesterday night during the protest that engulfed for almost 8 hours within the central business district. Right now, what we can confirm to you, family as well as friend and activists are currently here at the city mortuary paying homage to the young man. Of course, he was 29 years of age, currently lying here at the city mortuary. country. What we can also confirm to you is that the pathologist, both the private pathologist who is attached to the family is here, and the government pathologist, that is Johansen Odwor, is also here. But the postmortem has not started yet, given that they are waiting for a file to come from the Central Police Station. Remember that that was the designated police station that was supposed to oversee some of these cases in regards to the protest. Now, right now, they are waiting for that particular file to reach here at the city mortuary so that they can continue with the postmortem. We know that Rex was died of a gunshot wound, but we cannot confirm at what point or which area he was shot. We're waiting for the pathologist, that is Johansen Odwor, who is also here with the private pathologist of the family to confirm that for us. Of course, the protest continued yesterday night and was witnessed in Nairobi and other parts of the country. What we can also confirm to you, the various activists who are here, we've been speaking to them, including Haki Africa, as well as Boniface Mwangi and other activists who have been able to converge here at City Mortuary, is that they have vowed to go back to the street come Tuesday for Rex and other people who have been wounded during the protest. And of course, we'll be keeping tabs. We've just spoken to the family members who are too emotional to go live with us. We were trying to talk to them, but right now they have gone inside the mortuary itself, waiting for that particular postmortem. But we have spoken to them a while ago, and they have informed us on the last moments they talked to their son during his last hours, given that he was among the many protesters who flocked to the CBD, of course, against the anti-finance bill demonstrations that have been witnessed here in the capital for the last 4 days or so. And we'll duly inform you in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, back to you, Muchuma.
Thank you, Abdi. Good to have you. Looking forward to more developments from that end. This, as we have able teams across the country on latest developments in regards to the finance bill. This as reactions into the finance bill continue to pour in. And earlier on, we had the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Moses Kuria, who had these sentiments to say. Well, we want to bring you a clip on Moses Kuria, the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, who earlier on had his sentiments in regards into the finance bill debate that is continuing across the country. We'll be getting you that later on in this bulletin. But for now, let's get to health matters. Discussions about having Kenya stop over reliance on donor funds to run HIV/AIDS programs in the country and start thinking of ways of funding the programs domestically are ongoing. The head of the Directorate of Family Health in the Health Ministry, Bashir Isaac, said the discussions along those lines, especially with the change in structures of social health insurance, will go a long way in solving existing challenges. Our reporter Anburu with the details.
According to 2022 estimates, 1.377 million people are living with HIV/AIDS in Kenya, with about 68,000 being children aged between 0 to 14 years. Of the 1.377 million people living with HIV, 57% are in 10 counties, mostly in Western and Nyanza regions. During the HIV Service Delivery Integration Summit, which attracted over 500 participants in Mombasa, the head of the Directorate of Family Health in the Health Ministry, Bashir Isaac, said there has been a significant improvement since 2000, when the mortality rate was high, to date, where about 1.4 million people are on antiretroviral drugs free of charge.
The country has achieved a lot of progress in reducing mortality, in reducing the number of infections, in reducing transmission of infection from mother to child. And all these are achievements we are celebrating today.
Isaac reiterated that there are various discussions regarding funding the HIV/AIDS programs domestically, especially with the change in structures of social health insurance in the country.
And we have commitment with our partners, with timelines, to take over this as government and to fund this thing domestically. We have been doing it progressively, but there are timelines where the government will have to take up all these investments on themselves in terms of domestic funding, and this also helps us in charting the way for sustainability in terms of service delivery.
Patricia Acero, who has lived with HIV for close to 30 years, said access to the treatment today is much better than in 2000, when one would easily die of HIV/AIDS. She acknowledged that there are safer and minimal intake of the antiretroviral tablets compared to the past, and more improvements have been made with the introduction of injectables, which are very expensive and not easily accessible in Kenya yet.
Science has changed a lot of things, and now we even have safer medication that we can take 1 tablet a day that is containing 3 pills. Because initially we'd take a cocktail, every drug on its own, but now we can take 1 tablet that contains 3 pills. Injections have also come on board, although we still don't have access, but we know that there are injectables that one can take 1 injection for 6 months, so that you can be taking 2 injections per year. So those are still not affordable to us, but we know they are out there, they are available.
She, however, said the integration of HIV services is still a challenge in Kenya, where services are still parallel.
Sometimes you have a swelling, and yet maybe it's medicine, and you don't know. So if only you were being seen in one place by one clinician who would be able then to tackle everything that you have. But the most important thing is to have clinicians who are trained in the different component of the disease, who can be able to prescribe, who can also help you to monitor your condition, to monitor the side effects, to change if there's a change that is needed at any specific time.
From Mombasa County, I am Ann Mburu.
Revisit one of our top stories here in the county of Nairobi, and we are crossing over to the city mortuary in the county of Nairobi, where my colleague Hashim Abdi Aziz is getting the latest developments from that end. This after a section of Kenyans converged at the city mortuary following the death of one of the protesters after yesterday's protest in various parts of the country. Let's listen in.
Well, we're back here at the city mortuary, given that earlier I had told you the family was inside. Now we've been able to get at least the father of the late Rex, the 29-year-old who was gunned down yesterday along the streets of CBD. He was among the many protesters who showed up for the anti-finance bill 2024. Let's get to talk to the father to just recount to us his last moments with his son, given that he was among the many youths who had joined the anti-finance bill 2024 protest along the streets of CBD. Baba, karibu sana. Utaanza kwa majina, jitambulishe, pole sana kwa familia. Utueleze kijana wako siku yake ilianzaje hapo jana kabla ya tukio hilo.
Kwa majina naitwa Crispin Odawa. Mimi ndio baba yake Rex, yule aliyojeruhiwa kwa risasi kafariki baadaye. So kulingana na chenye kilifanyika, siwezi sema ilianza aje. Nitaanza na pahali habari ilinifikia. Wakati wa mchana nilikuwa town wakati wa hiyo protest, but mimi nilikuwa shughuli zangu za kawaida. So nilisikia uchovu, nikaamua kwenda kupumzika nyumbani masaa ya saa 8 hapo. Saa 9 nilikuwa nyumbani. Nikaingia kwa nyumba kupumzika, ikifika mwendo wa saa 1 hapo nikapigiwa simu na mama Rex, ule bibi yangu, kunijulisha kwamba Rex amefariki. Na ile tona alikuwa naongea naye asinga tungesikizana juu mtaani yeye pia kuna biashara zake hakuwa amefikia kwa nyumba. Sasa hii habari haikunifikia vizuri. Hata nikakata simu yake nikaweka chini. Sikuwa nimeelewa. Nikangojea afike kwa nyumba ndio anielezee nini alikuwa anaongea. So mama Rex kufika nyumbani ndio akanikonfirmia amepata habari Rex amefariki na kwa Bliss Hospital. Bliss Hospital connects to Archive along Moi Avenue. So ikabidi hapo tutafute means tukimbie huko tufike haraka tujue ni nini ilifanyika haswa. Juu sikuwa ni bado nimeamini ikawa kijana amefariki. Kufika huko tulipata kijana amelazwa hapo lifeless. Kashindwa tutasema nini. So ile statement tulipata na habari tulipata hapo, baada ya kwamba kijana alifikishwa hapo kama tayari ameshapass kulingana na bleed ya risasi. Risasi yenyewe ilipigwa ikaingia kwenye thigh pande ya juu, ikaingia kwenye thigh pande ya juu. Bleeding ikakuwa mingi zaidi, so angeweka ile muda alichukua harakati ya hiyo maandamano angeweka kufika kwa hospitali. Yule rafiki yake alikuwa naye ule wa kumsaidia, alikuwa peke yake kuomba usaidizi hata kwa mapolisi, nani walikuwa karibu. Wale pia walikuwa wanatoroka wanakimbia mapolisi wanaambia vijana wacheni na yeye akufe hapo. Hiyo ndio report kulingana na ule kijana alikuwa naye hapo. So ile statement tulipata kwa hospitali imeandikwa tu alikufa juu ya overbleeding. So kijana last moment tuliongea na kijana, imekaa kama wiki moja juu ni kijana mkubwa, alikuwa shatoka nyumbani, ni mtu alikuwa ameanza kujitafutia maisha na alikuwa anaishi pande ya high rise. So hiyo mchana yote tukua tumeongea. So hii habari tulipata jioni ndio ilikuwa pigo kubwa kwenye family. Sasa tukua confirm ameshutiwa aje, nini ilifanyika. So confirmiwa na kijana walikuwa naye alipata gunshot wound, live bullet kutoka kwa mapolisi. Wakati walikuwa ameingia alikuwa ametoka kazini, alifanya kazini huko Parkland, Westlands kwa casino. So hiyo jioni walikuwa wametoka kazini, akasema kuna kitu wanataka kuangalia town. Sasa kuingia town ndio wakaona hii ni kutetea wanyonge ya wananchi na sisi pia mmoja wa wananchi, wakaingia kwenye protest, na protest ilikuwa very peaceful. Hata mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa town wakati wa mchana. Hata hiyo mchana nilikuwa tu katikati yao nikisikia nikiteremka home niende kwa kazi nyingine, but nililemewa kufanya kazi ya SIF. Ni kama hiyo psyche ya hiyo kitu ilikuwa inakuja ndio ilifanya nikaenda nyumbani, but demonstration ilikuwa very peaceful. So kusikia vitu kama hizi zilitendeka hiyo masaa ya jioni, sasa hata ilitupiga na mshangao watu kwa tunajua la kufanya. So kutoka hapo hiyo statement tulipata daktari waliandikia mapolisi tulipata hapo kwa scene. Tukupata kwa scene tulipata wameenda. Juu sasa walikuwa wameenda kuleta gari ya kubeba mwili ya kijana. So hiyo harakati ya kwenda kubeba kuleta gari tulikaa hapo mpaka mwendo wa saa 5. Kitambo wafike kuanzia saa 2 hadi saa 5. Tukitaka sasa kutoke tuende Central tupige report sasa si wenyewe tukuje tuchukue kijana tuone next process. Ndio wakafika kubeba kijana, wakasema lazima ikuje City Mortuary ndio bado iko kwa mkono ya serikali. So wakati tulifika hapo kijana kabukiwa ndani, tukasikizana tukaambiwa kesho tukutane hapa. Kama family wako na pathologist wao walete na serikali pia itakuja. So tukafanya venye tuliagana na hao mapolisi, tukafika hapa by saa 2:30 tulikuwa hapa. So kwa saa hii tunaongea kijana baada amelazwa pale, pathologist walifika hapa mwendo wa saa 3, polisi hajafika. Ule polisi alikuwa afike hiyo masaa 3. Sasa tunashindwa, bado tushanyanyaswa kuuliwa mtoto, bado tunanyanyaswa, tutaki kupewa ruhusa ya kushughulikia mtoto ili tuone venye tutamlei apumzike kwa amani. Sasa hadi saa hii bado tunangojea sijui polisi atoke Central afike hapa. Ndio sasa pathologist wapege wa head ya kufanya postmortem. So otherwise sina mengi, kuna pigo kubwa kwa family kupoteza kijana firstborn.
The pictures on your screen are coming live from the City Mortuary in the county of Nairobi. This as my colleague Abdi Haziz Shem is engaging with the family of the late one who was killed in yesterday's anti-finance bill demos. Now, in other news this afternoon, Only 15% of Mount Kenya residents believe the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will succeed in his quest to unite the region, according to a survey conducted by Polytrack Africa. The polls done in 11 counties of Mount Kenya region between the 1st and 13th of this month from 2,392 respondents ranks High Interior Cabinet Secretary Kindiki Kithure as the best bet potential running mate for President William Ruto in 2027 at 50.2%, with Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro coming in a distant second with 19.7%.
The anticipated effects of the executive tensions on the Mount Kenya region, including potential political and economical impacts. And finally, it wanted to decipher the insights on the public perception for the lineup on the 2027 polls, offering early indications of potential candidates and voters' preferences.
Internally displaced persons in Kisii County now want the government to expedite their compensation to enable them to return to normal and dignified lives. Speaking during the World Refugee Day celebrations at Rihanna Market in Kisii South Sub-County, local IDPs coordinator James Oro said most of the IDPs were living in deplorable conditions. Sentiments were echoed by a section of the IDPs who now want the government to come to their help.
Wale walitupea makao wakati huo wamekaa na sisi mpaka wamechoka na hatuna chochote. Sasa tunaomba serikali mtusaidie tupate kile kidogo mtakachotupa ili tuweze kujisaidia kwa makao hata chakula.
Mimi nilikuwa Kabitieni Estate, ndio tulipata madhara mingi katika nyakati hizo. Hakika tuliumizwa, na pia sasa tunaomba serikali, hakika tuchapata pesa yoyote. Asa mimi sijapata kitu chochote tangu mwanzo mpaka hii miaka yote mifika siku ya leo.
Naomba serikali tafadhali nitengenezwe hii mikono ya individual hands, alafu niwe nikisaidia kwa kutoa nguo ama kuvaa nguo.
Sisi zote kama waathiriwa tuko nyuma ya rais wetu Ruto kwa ile juhudi ameweka ya kumaliza ukabila na kufanya kazi ili aone hawa waathiriwa wameshapata kile walichokuwa wanatarajiwa kupewa.
Back to the capital, and the Council of Governors are currently holding a press conference on universal health care, among other issues. The chair of COG, Anne Waiguru, is currently speaking. Let's over and listening.
DORA, after the process, this unilateral decision does not only undermine the spirit of devolution, but also jeopardizes the essential services to be delivered to millions of Kenyans. It is important that the National Treasury is guided by the provisions of Section 5(1) of the Division of Revenue Act 2024, which stipulates that whenever there is a shortfall in the revenue raised nationally, the shortfall shall be borne by the national government and not by counties. We therefore wish to state that the Council rejects this proposal in totality and demand that the National Treasury retains the county equity as enumerated in the Division of Revenue 2024 after the mediated process. Number 2, on the disbursement of pending allocation to counties. The Council calls for immediate release of equitable share of revenue owed to county governments for the months of May and June 2024, amounting to 63.6 billion. This is to ensure uninterrupted service delivery at the county level. As it is, many counties are struggling to pay salaries because we only received the allocation for April this week, and We are now asking that the allocation for May.
COG Chair Anne Waiguru addressing members of the press in regards to universal health care, among other issues. My colleague Timothy Kipnusu is at Delta House on that bit. We'll be ready to get the latest developments as the day goes by. But for now, we are taking our first commercial break. We'll be back with more news, including the ones making headlines in the world of business and sports. Stay with us.
Unajua, token mita yako inahitaji system update. Ni rahisi na ni free. Ukipata ujumbe kutoka Kenya Power, yani SMS, weka kodi ya kwanza kureset, alafu weke kodi ya pili kuupdate ili token mita yako iendelee kufanya kazi kama kawaida. Update token mita yako. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
In 1976, the government of Kenya hatched a plan to construct a major hydroelectric dam at the confluence of Suamri in West Pokot. Until 10 years later, that's when the project started after many controversies. And in 1991, the project was handed over to the government of Kenya by the French contractor. To many, this was a white elephant project, dodged by so many controversies and shrouded in corruption. 31 years later, Turkwel Hydroelectric Power Dam is still standing. And this week on Inside Government, we are talking to the Managing Director of Kerio Valley Development Authority, the managers of this dam. He'll be explaining to us what is the future of this dam, as well as what the dam is doing to improve the socio-economic livelihood of the locals here in West Pokot County.
And the dam is 60 kilometers square. That is massive, covering two constituencies, that is Kapenguria and Kacheliba. And I can tell you it's the lifeline of the communities living in this particular region.
Join me this week on Inside Government.
Thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1. Welcome back. Now, let's revisit one of our top items this afternoon, and reactions into the finance bill debates continue to pour in. Earlier on, we had Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Moses Kuria, who had this to say.
Continue to do. That is why next week I am going to be presenting to Cabinet a memo to add some 11 courses, which must be done on a mandatory basis by anyone working in the Republic of Kenya. After Cabinet approves that Cabinet memorandum, it is not a question of choice for those courses. You must do it. I'm very excited about some of the courses. The first course that is going to be mandatory for all civil servants to undergo is a course on living within your means. That one we have to do. Because we have said by 2027, we are going to have a balanced budget. And a balance, you cannot say on one hand, we are going to have a balanced budget. And then on the other hand, we continue spending like there is no tomorrow. People are chewing taxpayer resources like hunted game. and still expecting us to succeed.
That was earlier on Cabinet Secretary for Public Service giving his sentiments in regards to the Finance Bill 2024. This as he was launching a strategic plan to the Kenya School of Government. Well, in other developments, private security guards are set to go on strike in 3 weeks if their employer fails to implement the 30,000 shillings minimum wage bill. This was announced by the Secretary General of the Kenya National Private Security Workers Union, Isaac Ndabwa, as he issued a 21-day strike notice. Ndabwa is calling on the Private Security Regulatory Authority to fast-track reforms to improve the pay and working conditions of private security guards.
The CEO gave 7 days notice on the issues of compliance of minimum wage, in particularly in Nairobi. The union also, we raised our voices. We said we are supporting that notice of 7 days. It is now official that the 7 days have expired. I want to put again the employers on notice. So I'm inviting the employers for the last time. I'm demanding that we come, sit down, and engage ourselves in a more professional and organized manner. We must have a collective bargaining agreement for the private security industry.
Stakeholders in the tax system have noted the need for tax education among citizens to build their capacity on taxation matters. Obadia Kimani, an author who launched his book titled Indirect Taxation in Kenya, says by understanding basic on taxation, Kenyans will be able to track the use of their taxes and hold their leaders to account.
When he launched his book titled Indirect Taxation in Kenya, the author Kimani said that tax education plays a vital role in teaching financial literacy and enables citizens become responsible on their obligations.
The fact of the taxation as a routine is a way of hoary dynamics. We have a duty to acquaint ourselves with thoroughly as a matter of course. We must know what tax is. We must acquaint ourselves because it has a bearing in our lives. That view requires us to disabuse ourselves of the dreaded yesteryear's hard tax mentality.
He at the same time noted that knowledge on tax matters helps citizens appreciate why they should pay taxes. Kimani said it was unfortunate that many citizens have always relied on their leaders to enlighten them about tax matters, yet the same leaders too have limited knowledge on the same.
Understanding tax law and regulations in general is essential for maintaining proper compliance, avoiding fines, and managing cash flow efficiently. You are not caught off guard when tax due dates arise because you are planned, you know when the tax due dates fall, and you are planning for it.
The book explains the genesis of indirect taxation and how it is critical as a revenue-raising measure for any government in meeting its budgetary obligations. Jelis Aladi for Lunchtime News.
Human rights defenders have hailed the judiciary for what they say is speedy conclusion of a case involving the brutal murder of Elizabeth Ibrahim Ikaru, a human rights activist. The activist, led by Grace Lolim, praised Meru High Court presiding judge, Honorable Justice Edward Mureithi, for setting the judgment date on the 25th of July 2024. The suspect, Patrick Nawit, who was a neighbor to the late Elizabeth, was found guilty of murdering Elizabeth on the 3rd of January 2022. He is said to have stabbed her to death at Kambi Gabra in Isiolo County while she was attending a burial following a land dispute.
kuinje, kwa sababu pia tunajua kesi huanguka kwa sababu watu wengi wanaogopa kutestify kotini. Watu wengi wanaona wakikuja wakipeana ushuhuda, wao pia ni kama watashikwa, wao pia ni kama pengine watakuwa marked, watakuwa tortured, but hii ni kusema kwamba access to justice is possible.
Nataka kutoa wito ya kwamba ni lazima tuweze kusema. Tukiona yale mambo ambayo yamepangwa tuweze kusema, labda tunaweza kuzuia, na kama basi inaweza kufanyika tuweze kutoa sauti, tupige ripoti mahali popote, tupige kwa polisi, tupige kwa chief, tusikose kupiga ripoti zetu, kwa sababu unaweza piga mahali moja na iweze kusimamishwa.
The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is calling for more sensitization on the data protection laws in the wake of increased cases of Kenyans sharing personal data on social media. Data Protection Commissioner Immaculate Kasait cautioned Kenyans against the ongoing social media craze to share personal information, adding such data should be guarded as it exposes individuals to fraud and other cybercrimes. Her sentiments were echoed by Kajiado East Member of Parliament Kakuta Maimai, who urged the government to have defined sensitization campaigns on the power of social media and the threats of sharing personal data.
Ili wakienda katika hiyo mitandao wanaweza kuprotect na wasiwe wanapatiana information ambayo inaweza tumiwa baadaye kuwadhulumu.
We want to make sure that everybody is protected, but of course we have individual responsibilities on making sure that your data is protected. Ni jukumu lako uprotect data yako. So
medical students from Mount Kenya University will now access training facilities at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital after the two institutions signed a training partnership agreement. Mount Kenya University Vice Chancellor Professor Janganyi applauded the move, citing it as an indicator to local institutions working collaboratively towards achieving their goals. The partnership takes effect immediately after is intended to be renewed after every 3 years.
Within the proposed collaboration, I'm glad to note that some of the key areas earmarked for strengthening include training, capacity building, and internships for healthcare workers and students in both institutions.
We travel all the way to Europe to look for collaborators. But you forget that the best and the most productive collaboration is just next door. So collaborating with KUTRH is actually something that to us is a no-brainer.
Glad you have kept it KBC Channel 1. In business news this afternoon, Unilever East Africa will spend 11 billion shillings over the next 2 years to source locally grown agricultural produce from farmers. 4 billion shillings will go to mopping up millet from farmers. Stakeholders are calling for farmer training programs and value addition to address limited market access for millet farmers.
Millet production in Kenya faces challenges such as low yields due to outdated farming techniques, inadequate access to quality seeds, and limited knowledge of modern agricultural practices. Kenya imports 8,000 metric tons of the commodity per annum. Agricultural experts have underscored the need to improve millet farming practices with emphasis on increasing yields and enhancing the market value of millet through processing and value addition.
We are looking for those opportunities for us to work with food products that are healthy and nutritious and promote human well-being. And that's where millet comes in. It does very well here. It's resilient to the...
Unilever East Africa will spend 4 billion shillings this year to source for local millet products and 7 billion next year for other locally sourced agricultural products.
So this year, we'll be spending about 4 billion shillings from locally sourced material. We have an ambition that by end of next year, we'll be doing 7 billion worth of locally sourced products. Now,
Crops Director in the Ministry of Agriculture, Kalistas Kundu, says government will initiate awareness campaigns for millet sustainable practices for farmers in arid and semi-arid areas.
Exploring a number of policies and programs to achieve this. And we are doing this including introducing a minimum support price for millet to guarantee farmers and fair income. Reducing or eliminating import duties on equipment needed for millet processing to lower production costs. And this is a great one. That we're also establishing a millet buffer stock to ensure price stability and food security.
Frederick Moki for Lunchtime News.
In sports, Kenya's contingent to the 23rd edition of Africa Senior Athletics Championships remains upbeat ahead of the biennial event that starts today in Douala, Cameroon, with the 5,000 meters women in action. Kenya is out to retain the overall title it won in the previous edition in Mauritius.
Our team will start their title defense today evening with Mercy Chepkemoi, Teresia Gateri and Rebecca Mwangi in action in the women's 5,000 meters, where they will be going for a podium sweep. Others will be chasing the Olympic slots as well, and they include 100 meters athlete Mark Otieno, 800 meters rising star Sarak Mora, and the 4x100 meters relay team. The Kenyan team consists of 60 athletes who will be all out to defend the title they won in Mauritius in 2022. For Lunchtime News, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Defending champions Argentina beats Canada 2-0 in their opening group match of the Copa America played in Atlanta, Georgia. Manchester City forward Julian Alvarez opened the scoring as substitute Lautaro Martinez confirmed the win late on when turning in Lionel Messi's pass.
American sides, but with the guest nations of the U.S. and Mexico and Costa Rica and Panama, an opportunity for them to kind of
played out of pressure at times. They were
get uncomfortable.
Oh, Crepo didn't get there in time, and Julian Alvarez, no, it's going to be whistled in the middle. Rolls it right through the center, and that one's in. Argentina finally get their second. It's Lautaro Martinez who slams the door.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. We have come to the end of Channel 1 Lunchtime News. For more details on ad items and many more, do log on to www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Irene Muchuma. On sign language interpretation, we have Brian Muraru. On behalf of the entire team behind this broadcast, good afternoon and God bless you.
Je, unajua kwamba wizi wa maji ni uhalifu unaoathiri sisi sote? Hata hivyo, wateja wengi wa maji husalia kimya bila kufahamu madhara yake.
Imagine being born in a family of parents who have no education,
no formal job, no business. The animals they had have been taken away due to insecurity, so they are just left vulnerable. So by the time I was finishing Form 4, college life, I had to struggle to pay for my fees. Yes. Because already the parents have died. I've told you the story. I'll tell you the story of my parents. The parents have died. I'm there left alone with the other siblings.
WASREB tunaadhimisha miaka 20 ya udhibiti wa huduma za maji.
Oeleme. Oelema.
Karibu sana katika kipindi Sanaa ya Kiswahili.
Mwamba usiotingizika, wazazi tuna maswali, kichwani yametupamba.
Ni kweli kuwa shughuli ya ushauri kwa wanafunzi imeachiwa walimu badala ya wazazi?
Kwa shauri wanafunzi ni kwa walimu. Kwa sababu walimu wamesomea taaluma hiyo. Hatujakataa nyinyi mmewalea. Sisi tunawashauri na kuwaelekeza katika maishani.
Mzazi hawezi kubali mtoto yoyote aharibike kwa mikono yake. Ambapo akiharibika, hiyo hasara haitakuwa ya mwalimu, itakuwa ya mzazi kwake. Kwa hiyo heshima kuanzia nyumbani.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the 77% Show. My name is Edith Kimani and this week we are coming to you from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. On this week's very special show, we explore the coastal capital together.